So, as a Blender user, I'm on the Blender subreddit a lot, and I see tons of great renders on there and great scenes on there. But there's also tons of new people on there that ask for critique on their renders, and they usually follow the same few mistakes that I see. So, I basically am putting together this video to tell you some basic ways you can improve your render. Now, obviously, this isn't a just like all-in-one tutorial on how to instantly make great renders. That's still all up to you. You still have to like be able to make good renders and have like choices in it. But this is some guidelines for you to follow so you can be able to make your renders more interesting and less bland. The first thing that I want to go over is your view of your scene. Now, camera angles are very, very, very important in your scene. So, this scene that I have right here, I rendered today, and made today. And you can see that in this view, we have all these planets in view, and we can see all of them. But you might notice that I've left a little bit of Saturn out and a little bit of Neptune. I think that one's Neptune. I just want to let you guys know that I do have a Discord, and you're welcome to join. If you can join, you can just go on the channels, post your 3D art. Right now, I'm pretty much the only one doing that right now. You have 2D art, NSFW art. Wait, oh, okay. Memes, videos. You guys are welcome to join. You can ask for critique on art, advice on art, help with something in like Blender or Photoshop. And I can see, if I can do anything about it, or if you can just chat with us. That'd be nice. Cause I don't have friends. So you guys are welcome to join. Link is in the description. Let's get on with the video. Out. That's because I want it to be able. I want the people looking at this image to be able to see that the image extends beyond what you can see. Like there's more of the image than just what's in the scene. So, for example, if I would have Saturn and Neptune in the scene, yeah, it would still look interesting, but there's nothing telling you that there's anything beyond the left side of the image. Like there's nothing there. Like everything's in scene, and that's just not as interesting as having things outside the scene. So that's the reason why I put these there. And you always want to have stuff going on in the background, or at least the illusion of things going on in the background. You never want to have a completely flat image that has no atmosphere, no backstory of where it's at. You always want to have something going on. You always want your image to be interesting. And your camera angle is very important to creating that feel. So, bring that into composition. Now, a lot of people, when I see they have renders, their renders are good, but my eye never really knows where to go. Like, where does the artist want me to focus? Now, that's where composition goes in. So, having a picture with no professional picture, artistic work or anything, just has things sprawled out everywhere. There's always a set pattern. There's always something that the artist wants you to see. Now, that could be created with depth of field, but that could still be misleading. Your eye could focus on different things. But one thing that I like to follow by is something called the rule of thirds, and that is basically a grid view of 3x3 boxes that can tell you where you can position all of your stuff in your scene. So the way to put that in Blender, and the way to view that in Blender, is if you go to your camera and your hierarchy and go to your camera settings down here, under viewport display you'll see composition guides, and you have all these composition guides that you can see. And you can see like here and here, these are matched up, so the planets are in view. But I don't really use those. I use the rule of thirds. So this is what the rule of thirds grid looks like. And you can see that Jupiter is in it, and the bottom of Earth is in it. And the planets are in this box. And it's going right through Mercury, I think that is, or Venus. So it's going through a planet. Then over here, it's on Uranus right here. Then it's on Saturn's rings. So there's always something that it's on. There's no, like, if it was like over here, you'd be focusing on just the wood floor. Like, I mean, like, yeah, my texture might be good on the wood floor, but I don't want me having created this scene, I didn't spend hours working on a wood floor. I spent the composition of the scene and texturing the planets, not the wood floor. So that's kind of why I positioned this camera in this area where I positioned the objects, was so you'd be drawn to the planets. And something that you'd be able to see right here, if I open Photoshop, you can see it better right here. Like, I have this on the eye of Jupiter, this grid on the Saturn, and then Uranus. Then over here you have Mercury and Venus over here. Wait, is that Mercury? Mercury, Venus. That's Mars. Okay, so you have Mercury and Venus over here in the square next to these lines. You have Earth, the bottom of it being intersected right here. Obviously the eye right here and on Saturn's rings and stuff. So all that goes toward creating that render. So the third thing that I want to go over is the actual objects that you have in your scene. Now, a lot of people, when they make scenes, they could have a really good looking scene. Everything compositionally is there, the lighting is there, everything is good, except they will have things in their scenes that just shouldn't be there. Now, what I mean by that is, in this render, right, you have these renders of planets and stuff. So obviously it's like some miniaturized, stylized planets on a wood floor in like someone's house. So it wouldn't make sense if I had like a toy car right here or something. It would make sense if I had a toy car right here, if I had like a bunch of children's toys right here, if these planets were children's toys instead and I had a toy car right here. But these are planets. There shouldn't be like a toy car right here, or there shouldn't be like a notebook with a pencil right here. Which, funny enough, I actually thought about putting in, but I'm like, wait a second, something's not right there. But you want your scene to match up. You don't want there to be this blatant object that's just there that just shouldn't be there. Like, you never want that. So you want all your objects in your scene to match up, and that basically just evens out the image and makes it to where the image makes sense. You want your render to make sense. You never want it to be like, why does this exist? Like, why is this there? You want it to be pleasing to the eye and not someone wondering why you put something there. So, fourth thing that I want to go over is color. Color could make or break a render, and color and lighting, especially lighting, makes an immense amount of like things to the image. It gives so much to the image that lighting and color is something that you cannot skip out on. Even if you have really, really crappy textures or models or anything, sometimes just having extremely good lighting can change that. So the lighting in this image, you'll be able to see it's not just white. Now, I did that for a reason. You can actually see I have one area lamp right here that I put in a disc. I have one area light that I put in a disc, and the reason I put it on a disc was to simulate like an actual light. So if we go into Photoshop, you see that right here, instead of it being a square, it's like an actual light, like it's in someone's house. So that's why I put it as that. And if I click on this, if I click on this, you can see that it's not directly white. It's a little bit yellowish red, and I did that for a reason, because in scenes, lighting is never solid white. I mean, unless you're in a like a hospital or like a building, lighting in houses or like outside, it's never solid white. Solid white lights, for me, just take away so much from the image. It's so like blatantly just, hey, I'm a light, look at me, I'm a light. And I don't like that in my renders. I like lights. Obviously lighting is important. I love having lights in my renders. I mean, who doesn't? But the color of your light can make or break your image. So I chose a warm hue here because I wanted this to be kind of like, not like cold and not like dark and gloomy. I wanted this to be kind of an upbeat image, if that makes sense, with some warm lights and stuff like that. So that's why I didn't use like a blue light or something, because Earth is blue, right? And Earth is the thing in focus right here. But I don't want it to be blue because that would take away from the other planets. And there's already two huge blue objects right here. There's like blue greenish dust right here. So I don't want it to be blue. I want there to be a difference in colors. So that's why I made it. That's why you should always take into account what color your lighting is. Also how strong your light is. Now, strength is really important because you don't want your scene to be too dark and you don't want it to be too light. So I found that 10,000 right here was good for this scene because I knew what I was gonna do in like post-processing stuff to like darken it or lighten it. And actually 10,000 wasn't immediately enough, so I had to change it in some color curves in here in post-processing, which I'll get into in a minute. And then size is also something really important. Blender Guru went over this in I think the first part of his lighting tutorial. But lighting if you have a really, I think the default size for a area lamp, let me actually see this to make sure. So if I just create an area lamp, default size is 1 meter. So if we go on this area lamp right here, you can see that I have it at 10 meters. And that's because if I had it at 1 meter, it wouldn't cover the entire scene, for one, and two, it would create these really sharp shadows. Now if we look right here, you can see like here it kind of fades out. That's because the lighting is covering everything. Now if it didn't, then it would only cover a portion of this earth right here, it just make the shadows really like sharp, and shadows are never completely sharp unless you're holding like a flashlight, a really bright flashlight at them. They're never like naturally very sharp. So I changed the lighting to this, and it looks good. So that's lighting and stuff. You always want to make sure that your lighting and your color and everything in your scene complements each other. So I wouldn't want something really bright over here and then really like completely dark over here. Actually, you actually would want that, but I wouldn't want something like completely bright right here when everything else is kind of like mid-toned. Is that even a word? I don't even know if that's a word. Hopefully you know what I mean by that. But you just want to make sure everything belongs. If it looks too bright, then darken it. If it looks too dark, then brighten it, etc. Now post-processing, okay? So post-processing is something that I used to not do a lot of, and this render is my first render that I've actually done a lot of post-processing in. So if I just hide all these right here, you can see this was my initial render. So there's a few things wrong with this render right here. If I were to just render this out, there's a few things that are wrong with this. First of all, it's boring, right? So compositionally, everything is there. Like, you have all your rule of thirds stuff, but it's way too dark. So that's what this color curve is. No, that's not what that color curve is. It's what this color curve is. I just brightened up the image a lot, and you can see it gives a ton more to the image. So it brightens it up so much, and just that alone makes it pop so much more. So that's just the color curves by adding it in with Photoshop. I'm not gonna go over how to add color curves. You can just look that up. But color curves, corrections, makes it look so much better. So second thing I did was I added these dust and scratches, or this dust and scratches, and you can see right now it's way too big. Like, it's way too like it's there, like, hey, I'm some dust and scratches, look at me. So what I did with that is I added some more color curves and just darkened that down a little bit, and just made it to where all of that is gone. Or, well, not gone, but it just takes it away a little bit. It makes it a little less prominent. So this looks good. Other thing I added was some film grain, because film, when you take a picture, no matter how good the camera is, it's gonna have grain. And to make something look photorealistic, you at least need a little bit of grain, even if it's not like extremely prominent that's there. So if I zoom in like right here, I turn on film grain, you can see that it adds like grain to it. So yeah, the way I did that was I just overlaid it, and same with the dust. I just lightened, so it was overlaid on there. And that's basically it for that. The other thing I want to go over that I did for this scene is volumetrics. Now, volumetrics are not something that you always want to do. Volumetric lighting needs to be used in scenes that need volumetric lighting. Now, I did it for this one because it would add a lot to the scene. So that's why I did it, because it adds a lot to the scene. So volumetric lighting, it's what this box right here is. So if I click on this box, you can see that I have this volume scatter and volume absorption and an add shader and put it on the material connected to the volume. And I have the density at 0.01 and the density on the volume absorption as 0.050 and the anisotropy about 0.5. And with those settings, it gives me a pretty good subtle but not too subtle look. So that's basically it. That's my tips for helping people get better renders. So make sure that everything that you want in view is in your view. Make sure that it's not too flat, that it makes it look like there's actual stuff in the scene. It makes it look like there's more to the scene than you have in your picture. Make sure you're following composition guides. Make sure everything looks pleasing to the eye. Make sure that all your objects match in the scene. Make sure that there's nothing just there that doesn't need to be there. Make sure your color and lighting looks good in the scene and it matches the scene and it complements the objects in the scene and the textures that you have. And add some post-processing, because every image, even if it's just a color correction, every image will look better with post-processing. Now, so that's it. Hopefully you guys learned something, and hopefully this video you take something with you in your next render, and hopefully, or even a render that you're working on now. Hopefully you can take something from this video and use it in your render, and if you do, then make sure to leave it in the comments below, and I'd love to know that I helped you out. So, my name's Viz. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye.